Hi, welcome back to Cooking Under Quarantine. I'm Chef Jon of J Squared Food, and for me, comfort food is such a way to feel better about anything that's going on in my life. It gives you a certain warmth, and it tells a story first and foremost. And I think that, especially now, it's tense time, put it lightly, everywhere. Having something comforting like this jambalaya that we're about to cook it'll really make you feel warm from the inside out. So this is my riff on classic Cajun Jambalaya. We are going to skip the seafood in this version, but I will tell you how you can incorporate that if you wanted to. This will be a chicken and sausage. So I have some, this is some like Andouille sausage, which is usually smoked, and it's a little spicy. It's very Cajun. If you want a good kosher brand, Jack's is really good. And we're going to use chicken breast. You could use chicken thighs, you could use chicken on the bone, although that will take longer to cook. What have you. And then you need some veggies. You need onions, peppers, and carrots in this version. Oftentimes the Cajun mirepoix, or the Holy Trinity, for most dishes is peppers, onions, and celery. I'm not a huge fan of celery, so I'm substituting this carrot, this bag of carrot. And then scallions for garnish, and we have tomatoes and broth. So let's get started. So first thing you should do is heat up a big pan. It should be, it should have a good sized lip, because we're going to cook everything in this. Just start heating up in, say, medium high, and do a little bit of oil in the bottom, not too much, because remember the sausage is going to cook first, and the sausage also has fat in it that will be released while you're cooking it. We're actually going to cook the rest of the veggies in the sausage fat. Yum! So put your sausage in, and it'll start to cook, don't worry. And you'll start to hear a sizzle in a minute. See? And just cook that until it's mostly cooked through. I'd say it's going to probably take about 5 or 10 minutes. And then we're going to pull it out, slice it up, and cook the rest of our veggies. So, jambalaya is a one-pot dish. So we're going to put everything into it. But if you want to put other things, it usually has rice as the main component. It sort of binds everything together. You could do it with couscous or quinoa as sort of like a more healthier riff. But rice is usually the best bet. So, it's sizzling, just let it go. It doesn't need to be fully cooked. And while we're doing that, we can prep the rest of our stuff. So I am going to cut our carrots. I'd say you want them in bite-sized chunks. They don't need to be tiny. But that happens sometimes. But you don't want them to be super small either. So I'll cut, I'd say like maybe 1/4-inch pieces. But you can have it chunky, you can have it not chunky. It really doesn't matter. It's going to continue cooking when we put in all the liquid and everything. So it doesn't have to be perfect. We like it kind of rustic a little bit. We just want everything of sort of similar size. Wow. This is like atomic energy carrot. I don't know what it was feeding on, but it's big. Alright. I don't even know if we need the whole carrot. I feel like maybe that's enough. I am on team skin on carrots. A lot of people will say you don't have to. The skin is perfectly healthy. And I don't feel it. There's a lot of vitamins and nutrients, so it's perfectly fine. Just make sure you mix it. first. So I'm just going to take a bowl where I'm going to put all my veggies that I've chopped. That's all ready to go. There you go. Alright. Now we've got carrots. Next up, we got peppers. For this, peppers super easy. Just cut out the middle. Cut out some of the white veiny stuff. Not all of it. Use your fingers. No fancy chopping technique required. Alright. And then same thing. Cut them into chunks. And I'm using green bell peppers, but you can use red, orange, yellow. Just use the regular sweet bell peppers. I would not use a hot pepper at this point. We'll spice it up later with potato hot sauce, cayenne. But if you use the hot pepper now, you want the sweet pepper to give the sweetness to the fish, and they have like a wonderful flavor when they're cooked. So I'd say like peppers. Now, and so I was to New Orleans. I've been there a few times over the years. I have friends who make it over here. So I've gone down and met, just like drinking and all day, or go to the pool, or jazz music. There's so much live music on Bourbon Street. It's comforting memories for me, and when I eat this dish, you know, it reminds me of that, those times. The food there is delicious. So the sausage is kind of good. Just sit there and leave it off for a minute while we do everything else. And put that in a bowl, actually, all the seasoning. Because it'll hold in more of the juices as they come out, as opposed to a plate. It might run all over the place. So we're just going to let that sit for a little bit. We'll keep cooking for a couple minutes even though it's off the heat. And we will slice it up later. Now we also have onions. This plain, I just have plain yellow onion. You can use Vidalia, white onion, you can even use red onion, although red onion is a little sharper. It's made a little bit more for dishes where you want either that punch or where you're not going to cook it, where it's raw, so like bagel or salsa, Vidalia. But you can use any onion you want. And we're just slicing it roughly. You know, this is not gonna. It's all gonna cook down. So we are ready for our next step. So I'm turning the heat back on in the pan. You notice that there is already still sausage fat. We're going to build on that. We are going to add garlic. I'm cheating. I'm using already chopped garlic. We're going to add the veggies in first. And then we'll add the garlic in once they've sauteed a little bit, because we don't want the garlic to burn. Once it's burned, it'll start to permeate and perfume the whole dish, and nobody wants that sort of burnt after it tastes the rest of their dish. So, chop. Another tip while you're cutting onions is make sure you don't fry. If you have the flame on the gas stove, the fire will stop the onions, gas will stop the onions from oxidizing. It's what causes your eyes to tear up. So there you go. Alright, this is going in. And let's just give this a nice stir. I'm using a non-stick pan because it's one of the bigger pans I have. You can use other kinds of metal pan or what have you, especially if you want a little crust. I think non-stick is easy, especially if you're doing these one-pot dishes. You want easy cleanup. So, alright. So I'm just gonna give this a couple minutes, and then in maybe like 2 or 3 minutes, we're gonna hit it with our garlic. Well, I'm gonna just clean up a little bit of my board. It's easier to cook everything. Garlic, something. Okay. So now I am going to put board on top of board and use a different knife because we're cutting raw chicken. I'm slicing it up in chunks. You can buy already cut up chicken or chicken tenders and stuff from the butcher, but I have to do it myself. It's really easy. You need a really sharp knife. I'm using a serrated knife, but you can use a regular chef knife. Just make sure it's sharp. You just gonna do long, smooth strokes, top and bottom, and then use your fingers to separate it out. There you go. And now, you have these two. I like to flip it over so that you have better sort of balance. And then we're going to just cut it in chunks. This is also a great way to do this for if you want to make a curry or stir fries or any sort of like dish where you need chunks of meat. And then you can throw this right into a plastic bag or a bowl with some marinade, or you can put it into right into the dish. So I'm going to just put this cut chicken right back on the tray that it came on while I cut the rest. So if you have one that's like one of these where it's folded, you can unfold it. And it's fine, cut that part off. This is tender. So I'm using boneless, skinless chicken breast. You can use chicken thighs, and then also you can cut this to whatever size you want. You like smaller pieces, that's fine. You like bigger chunks, that's also fine. You can even leave it whole. The only thing is when you do if you leave it whole, it just takes longer to cook. Cutting it also cuts down cook time and increases surface area for each underneath. Well, physics for the win. So, what are some of your variations? I once did this with turkey breast, like turkey tenders. They were interesting. They had a very gamey texture. I added like herbs, like sage and more thyme, rosemary to my classic Thanksgiving flavors to my jambalaya. It was a little different, but so this is gonna go. And just get my hands in the wash. It's sloppy. Some water. Alright. So now, just gonna give our veggies toss. We're doing great things. We've resisted the urge to constantly be tossing them before because we were doing our chicken. It's another reason why. And now we can start salting. be generous because this is, you know, it's going to be a big pot of food. Okay. It's starting to smell great and great things. You know, we're sort of sweating the vegetables now. And I'm going to borrow a phrase from one of my favorite Food Network chefs, Andouille. What happens when you sweat? When you go to the gym, you sweat, and what happens? You start to smell because you release water. It's the same thing with these. They're releasing their water, and they're starting to get color and start to smell like sauteing vegetables, and they smell great. So, we are also going to now add garlic. So, I'm cheating. I'm using already chopped garlic. I'm using maybe about 2 tablespoons because I like it very garlicky and lots of different flavor. You can use less. This is just chopped garlic. It's still fresh. You can use less. I would say this is about 4 or 5 cloves minimum, but you can use more or less. You can use up to 10 cloves. I think 4 or 5 is a good balance. So we're about a tablespoon or 2. So see that they're starting to soften a little bit. So you don't want these to like get really brown and stuff. You just want them to soften and they're going to continue cooking. And we also want to make more steaks. We'll also come back to our sausage. So these look good. They're brown, but they're not super cooked through. We can take our sausage juice and put it back in there. Yum. And we're just going to slice these also into chunks. Maybe similar size to the chicken. You want smaller, fine. If you want to skip sausage altogether, also okay. This is great. You can do this with tofu. You can do this with Beyond, like the plant-based meat, Beyond, or what's the other one? Impossible. You can do this with just veggies. You can maybe add chickpeas for lots of protein, or ground sausage. What have you, they can. It's all going to be delicious. But if you're going to skip the sausage, you're not going to necessarily get that cut. Or if you're going to use something like turkey sausage, or chicken sausage, which has much less fat and more lean, then add in a little extra olive oil or margarine or whatever, just so that it doesn't dry out and it doesn't burn. Alright, awesome. That smells really good. At this point, just make a little, move your veggies to the side a little bit. Make yourself some room. And add your chicken. There you go. And the chicken, you just want the chicken to start browning. It's also going to keep cooking while it's in there. Give this a couple minutes and then start stirring it. And then we're going to start building all of our liquids and let this sort of sit and forget about it. So, we can get everything else ready. This is going to have crushed tomatoes or tomato puree, what have you. You can use diced tomatoes, but you want something that's liquidy because it's going to give it that wonderful reddish brown color that jambalaya usually has, and also tomato flavor. You need broth. You need liquid to cook rice. You need about usually you need about 2 to 1 ratio for cooking rice. We're gonna have a little bit extra because there's also all this other stuff in there. So I'd say about 2.5 to 1. So like about 1 cup of rice, 2.5 cups of liquid. So we also need tomato paste. Jonathan, you say, why do you need tomato paste if we're adding in this other tomatoes to make tomatoes? Fresh tomatoes, because we need the tomato paste because tomato paste is concentrated tomato. It tastes very tinny, very sort of like acidic and like a lot of like metallic tang, but it has such a deep tomato flavor. A big tablespoon or 2 tablespoons, that's about 2 tablespoons. And when it cooks out, it's delicious. It'll give that rich tomato flavor deep in the dish. So we are now stirring the pan again, breaking up the chicken, the veggies, tomato paste is embedded deep in there now. That's going to cook a little bit. You need to cook the tomato paste down a little bit so that it gets rid of that tang flavor. You can use, even if you use tomato paste, the ones in like the tube, you buy it by where the pastas are, that needs to cook a little bit too. Just a few minutes. Do not substitute tomato paste for crushed tomatoes or tomato sauce. It'll not work. It'll be way too rich and tangy. You won't get the sort of acidic sweetness you get from tomato sauce. Okay. So, looking good so far, I think. Alright. And now, these are, sorry. Alright. Looks great so far. Now, we are going to add about, if you have a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes, add about half. If you have a 14-ounce can, add the whole thing, okay? I'm adding about half of this. You can always add more liquid later if you want. You don't want too much liquid. Then you'll end up with like a mushy, soggy jambalaya. Nobody wants mushy rice. I mean, unless you like rice pudding. And that's like a totally different episode. So, mix it around. It'll start cooking a little bit, give it a wonderful, flavor. Okay. And now is also the time when we'll season before we put the rest of the liquid. So this is just Cajun seasoning. It's usually a mix. It's usually got paprika, garlic, cumin, some herbs. There are lots of different brands. They all have mostly the same ingredients. Pick the one that you like the best. Cajun seasoning is a little different from Creole seasoning. Creole is a little bit more with like the dehydrated vegetables, which is good, but not exactly what we're going for, just get fresh. And then this is gumbo filet. You can find this at some supermarkets, or you can definitely find it at like Penzeys or other specialty spice stores. It's got a woodsy flavor. It's made from ground sassafras leaves. Very classic in Cajun cooking. You obviously, the name gumbo filet, you use it in gumbo, but also like maybe putting like 2 teaspoons in here gives it a wonderful deep flavor. A little salve in your mouth for a cheek. So just give this a nice big stir. Right now, you could eat this, as it is, when you're cooking the chicken. It would be tasty. You can have it over rice, you can have it, with mashed potatoes or something by itself, but we want to turn this into gumbo, right? Long grain type of rice is what's recommended. It'll cook evenly. So that'll take about 20-25 minutes. If you're using brown rice or wild rice or something like that, it'll take longer. So I'd say maybe more like 30 minutes, 35. But just check it after like 20 minutes and give it a taste. If it's too hard, keep cooking it. If it needs more liquid, add liquid. It's not like baking. You could sort of play around with this a little bit. And you're using parboiled rice, that's okay. It'll just take less time. And if you're using like the bagged rice that's already cooked, or the 90-second rice for the microwave, or Trader Joe's or Whole Foods, the frozen rice, I wouldn't recommend it because it's already cooked and it's not going to absorb the flavor. It's going to get really mushy, so it's not that. Oh! I forgot one of the components. Forgot to add the sausage back in. That would have been terrible. You want that delicious sausagey flavor going in everything. Ah! Good thing I remember. Alright. So, this is going to keep going. And remember, cook it, cover it for this ear to peak, unless it's been about 20 minutes and you think you want to taste the rice to see if it's done. Then I give you permission to peek. Otherwise, resist the urge. Alright, see, this is absorbing a lot already, so I'm going to add a little bit more broth. Just because I added the... There you go. Oil, cover, back on. Alright. We are finishing at the end of our jambalaya. Look at this pan. A lot of the liquid has come out, and everything is cooked. Very tomatoey. It's all come together in one dish. Final touch, we're just gonna turn the heat off, give it a taste if you're unsure about your seasoning. I tasted it once. And we're just gonna chop up some scallions. Very traditional. And we don't really want to cook them. We want to taste them. They'll give a little bit of, garnish crunch, but they'll also give a little bit more oniony flavor. They're not super strong, but they're very traditional in southern Cajun dishes, whether it's a garnish. And you just want to chop off the ends of the white end, and then you want to use the greens just until the last couple inches. The top is very, you can't really break it down very much. It's very chewy and woody. You're the one, just give you the toss so you can get a little bit of everything. And just, sprinkled over the top. I would just bring this whole pan to the table. I think that's a great presentation. Look at that. Delicious. Let me show you how it looks plated up. So I would just grab like a nice bowl, nothing too wide, or a plate even. Give yourself a couple big spoonfuls. That's how hungry you are. Taste, so garnish with a few more scallions. Yum. And then one of the most important parts, hot sauce, right? What's Cajun food without hot sauce? I'm using Tabasco. That's what I have, but you can use crystals, Cholulas, what have you. I wouldn't necessarily use something like a sriracha because traditional hot sauce is great because it has it's vinegar based. And you want a little bit of that, you want that vinegar tang to help cut through the richness of the tomato and the sausage and the rice. So give it a taste. Get like a nice piece of chicken, rice, scallion. Delicious. And that is jambalaya, one pot meal. Let me know how it came out.